was the last time you had a business idea? Why did you pursue it? There are a lot of successful student entrepreneurs. I didn't start up then, personally, because I didn't feel I was ready. This was me at 22. Do I look ready to start up? But what I did at 22 was that I took all my life savings until then and I invested in new startups. I wanted to know what different startups do, how they function, learn from their journeys, and then use those learnings to start my own business. And today, I wanted to come here and share those learnings with you. But you know what? Let me share something even more interesting. Do you see this kid here? This little businessman taught me a lot about business before even the startups I invested in. I look cute, don't I? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's me, that 6-year-old. Now, my first venture was at the age of 6, and when I was coming here to Pune, I looked back and I realized what I learned at that time. Those simple business lessons are the most important and are timeless. Guess what I started my first business in? Today I run a VC-funded, AI-powered edtech startup, but my first business was just a toy shop. I started, it's a very interesting story how I started actually, and it's also the #1 lesson of entrepreneurship. It's a golden rule. Entrepreneurship is all about problem solving. It's not about an idea. When we were kids, we all got pocket money, right? And we all wanted toys. Now, you couldn't go to the store on your own. You were not allowed to. You can't ask your mother to take you to the store, because if you ask her for a new toy every other week, you're going to get a slap. And you, of course, the pocket money you get, you can't really buy a brand new toy with it, right? At the same time, as a kid, I was part of a large school. There were at least 300 kids in one batch. That meant a lot of birthday parties. So, at that time, birthday parties meant a lot of gifts, right? There were return gifts, there were gifts you would get for winning in certain games, and then there was obviously the koi bag. Right, this big bag filled with goodies. You would all stand around it, someone would pull it open and these toys would be all over the floor and kids are scrambling all around trying to stuff their hands with those goodies in their pockets. My mom says I went for at least 2 to 3 birthdays a month. I would get back 6 to 10 goodies from each birthday. That meant almost 300 a year. What did I do with it? I realized I could sell them. So these came in for free. Thus I could sell them for cheap, which solved the problem of all of these people who wanted new toys. Right? Golden rule. But entrepreneurship is not that simple. You don't just build it and they don't just come. There are a lot of bad days. Right? There are days when you question yourself, the days when you feel stupid, the days when it's been a week and no one's come to buy anything from you. And there are days when you just feel like crying. On those days, the reality is you have just yourself. Right? Your parents will listen to you, they'll give you some love. But then they'll be like, "Chupchap jaake bahar khelo, nahi to padhai karo." Right? Like every other kid. In today's speak, they will tell you, why don't you take a job, or why don't you do a master's instead? Why do you need to start up? Right? But you have to be resilient. You have to keep going on. And you also have to have passion. Right? I loved what I did. And that's exactly why I could turn it into a game. I would make it a game to predict how many people will come to the shop today. If no one came, I would enjoy the process of cleaning up this cupboard, which was my toy store, or planning which toy to have there next. And this lesson is even relevant today. Right? About 2 years back, when COVID hit, we were about to close our first round of funding. But when it hit, that funding was called off. That day, I cried. But then I went back, I continued bootstrapping, and and I launched a new product 6 months later, and we closed a round of funding at a bigger value and at better terms. Right? So what's the lesson here? You have to have grit. You have to have passion for what you do. You have to love the process. That's the only way to succeed in the long term. Lesson 3. You have to stand up. Call it unique selling proposition, call it branding, call it, in Seth Godin's term, a purple cow. You have to give your customers a reason or an answer to the question, why you? And that answer has to stand out like this purple cow so that people go and talk about you. The answer to why you is simple. Permission. You're not allowed to go beyond a few buildings around your house. And affordability. You can't go to a store and buy something new. But after some time, I saturated that market, right? How many kids are there around you? 5 colonies, 10 colonies. So I was like, how do I attract more kids? I realized the solution was simple. Have the coolest toys. So I pulled out these WWF figures. That's what it was called back then, not WWE. And I pulled out this one video game that my cousin got for me from the US. And I put it up. Now these were expensive. No one would buy them, but that's exactly why it worked. People would want to just come, look at them, maybe get a chance to play with them, and then they would go back to school and talk to their friends about this new cool toy they played with. So when their friends would come to these guys' house, they would all want to also come to my house to see that, which meant they would at least buy something. Right? Great for business. But the lesson on branding here is that some of the best brands out there are the braggable ones. Isn't that an awesome lesson? So when you start up, you start with a small niche, small problem for a small number of people, you build a good solution. But as you grow, you have to either go wider or deeper. You have to sell more of the same product to different people, or to your same customers, you have to sell many more products. Just like how when you go to your milk shop, you also see sweets out there, right? In the hope that you would buy those as well. For me, that meant I launched a library. 1 year later, I realized that I had these huge pile of books I would love reading, right? I would spend at least 2-3 hours reading Tinkle or Harry Potter or Tintin or whatever it was, Secret 7. So I would love reading, and then those books would just lie there. So I thought, why not give it out to these guys? In hindsight, that was a great move. I realized all the parents love to have their kids come over because they're like, "Acha bacha kuch to kar raha hai, kuch pad raha hai," right? Which again was great for business, right? So this little lesson is 101 of diversification, right? And in startup jargon, it helped me increase what is called LTV, lifetime value of my customer. Now, fast forward to when I was 9 years old. This wasn't cool anymore. It wasn't cool to the kids in the neighborhood also. Sab boring ho gaya tha. Birthday party trends start changing. What gifts you got on birthdays start changing. And in startup speak, I had to pivot. Right? And pivot I did. I caught up on this new trend that was coming up at that time and built upon that. What was it? Art and craft. I learned how to make candles, I learned how to make soaps, and I started a new product line. Now, believe me, as a 9-year-old, learning to make candles is very difficult. You have to learn how to operate the gas, you have to learn how to deal with hot wax, you have to convince your parents to let you use the stove. And I was in a joint family, so you have to even convince everyone else to give you the kitchen. Right? So what ended up happening is I would come back from school, first thing I would do is, when everyone's sleeping in the afternoon, taking their nap, I would make my candles. Now candles at that time was cool, it was unique, and we were back in the business. So what's the lesson here? Lesson is, as an entrepreneur, you have to keep learning every single day. Every day you have to grow yourself. Every day you have to grow your understanding about the market. Every day you have to grow your understanding about your customers' needs. And that's exactly what we're doing at CareerNinja, my venture, even today. In fact, we're just launching a new product called LearnTube. We were observing our customers for a while and we realized everyone just likes to learn on YouTube. They don't want a fancy large, expensive course. They just want to learn a small topic for a specific problem that they're having and want to do that for cheap or free, right? So we said, how can we help them then? So what we're building is a product that sits right inside YouTube and tells you, okay, to learn this skill that you want, like Python, watch this video next, then watch this video, and then gives you access to mentors who will answer your doubts, and then gives you a certificate for learning inside YouTube, right? That's what we did by listening to our customers and by continuously adapting. So the world is ever changing, and as the market changes, your product has to change. Lesson 6, ABCE. Yes, anybody can entrepreneur. You are not born with entrepreneurship. You're not born a founder. You may have certain traits that may help you, but all of these can be learned with time. All of these can be learned with effort. Very simply put, entrepreneurship is a choice that you make. For me, it was a byproduct of a choice I made that I want to solve the education problem. There's a big problem with the education system in the world. There's a big gap in what skills we need today. I want to solve it, and I want to solve it in a way that it caters to at least a few million people. That's the choice I made. Thus, I had to create a solution. Thus, I became an entrepreneur. Second, there is no right time to start up. If you're ready, the right time was yesterday, and if you're not, then it's only your own lessons that are going to get you ready. So what you need to do is, maybe you don't have to dive straight in. You can start as a side project, you can start on the weekend, you can join another entrepreneur who's solving the same problem. Anything that helps you move one step closer to your goal. But if you're waiting for that right day, that's never going to happen. Right? Another thing about entrepreneurship is you're never too young and you're never too old. The money that I made from my store, I gave it to my dad because he promised me interest in the hope of teaching me how to save. That very money, along with some more, compounded over 16 years is what I started investing in startups at 22. Right? So, key thing, if anything you take back from this is start ASAP, learn from it ASAP. You may make as many mistakes, but that's exactly how you learn. And don't think you're too young or don't think you're too old to be successful. Now, 23 years later, after that first startup, I would like to first thank all of my friends and all of my neighbors for being my first customers and my first investors. Second, I would like to thank all of you guys for listening to my story. I hope these very simple lessons of business will help you. But more importantly, build your belief that if a 6-year-old could, why can't you?